Good morning. Good morning. North Shore Unitarian Church is a community guided by love, grounded in reason, committed to spiritual growth, and striving for justice. We warmly welcome you here today. My name is Jim Fleury, and it is good to be with you this morning. Our community strives to celebrate every person who comes into our sanctuary. Whether you ran in here on little feet or walked in briskly or ambled in or rolled in, you are welcome. Whatever your complexion or orientation or gender expression or political beliefs, you are welcome here. Unitarian Universalism is committed to the idea that every person has inherent worth and dignity. We seek to share that vision with each other and with the world. In case it is helpful to you, please know that there is a loop hearing system available. You are also invited to take note of the announcements in your order of service. Plan to join us for any community events that are of interest to you. To minimize disruptions, we ask that you set your electronic device to worship mode. Means off. I didn't get it the first time either. Navigating ongoing realities of the coronavirus. Is a complicated matter, so is the word. We strive to make our worship as welcoming as possible, including for people who are medically vulnerable. We ask that all people who attend services activities wear masks and be fully vaccinated, except when it's not medically possible. For those who are here for the first or second time, I would like to extend a special welcome. If you are comfortable, would you mind raising your hand so we can welcome you? We are glad you're here. We hope that you join us after the service for coffee and conversation. Also, if you're joining us online, welcome. If you could do me a big favor and take a nice sip of coffee, I would help that. Thank you, I needed that. You can learn more about us by visiting nsuc.org or signing up for our newsletter. May our time together be a time of joy.
My spiritual companions, welcome to this day in this place. It is so good to be with you today for this animal blessing service. Now, obviously, we typically have the animals present with us as we were planning this, and as Delta was coming up, you know, we decided to be safe and not have our animal companions present, but we have a wonderful slideshow coming up of all of our beloved pets. So I'm excited about that, and I'm happy to be with you. And today, our wonderful pianist, Catherine Peterson, is not here, but we have Daniel Bayer here as our guest pianist, so I'd like to welcome him. It's good to be with you all today. Some opening words from Ian Riddell. Come hoof and trunk and tail and horn and paw and wing and claw. Come bird and reptile, mammal born, all full of nature's law. Bring bark and crow and rabbit too, and silent stare and hiss. Bring purr and trill and warble too, and voice no ear can miss. We gather here each life and all to celebrate and to sing, to honor creatures great and small. 'Tis holiness that we bring. My spiritual companions, welcome, all of you. Let us now join together in the words that we typically say to light our flame. This flame affirms the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment.
I gotta get all the accoutrement right. I got this in the wrong order this morning. Sorry, folks. In any case, it's truly a joy to be back here together in our sanctuary in this beautiful prairie land. We gather here this morning. We acknowledge that we are not the first people to worship and celebrate in this place. Let us know that as we come together, we do so on the unceded hunting grounds and homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, comprised of the Ojibwe, Oaxaca, Potawatomi nations, as well as the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sauk, Fox, Kickapoo, and Illinois. They had thriving trade networks throughout the Great Lakes before and after European contact. Let us acknowledge these traditional custodians of this land and pay our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. We offer them our gratitude, respect, our repentance, and hope in solidarity with them.
I'd like to invite you to rise as you are able and join us for hymn number 1022. We're going to sing the first 3 verses, and you can sing softly into your mask today. We've been waiting to bring back singing until we reached under a 3% positivity rate in Lake County, and we are there. So I'm really happy that we can sing today.
My name is Jonathan Schlesinger, and I am the Congregational Life and Education Coordinator here at North Shore Unitarian Church, and I use he, him pronouns. For today's story for all ages, I struggled a bit, but I eventually thought of a neighbor that I had growing up. His name was Don, and he loved snakes. And he really loved snakes. His license plate bracket consisted of intertwined stakes around his license plate. He had a snake painted on his mailbox. And to top it all off, in lieu of wedding rings, he and his wife had snake tattoos around their ring finger. He really liked snakes, and he, in fact, liked venomous snakes. And it always, thank you for doing that, that's helpful. Because like you, or like many of you, I was always perplexed by his fascination with snakes. I would be walking my big, lovable Labrador past his house, and we'd strike up a conversation about his snakes. And one day I asked him, what is it about these snakes? They're venomous. They've escaped in your house in the middle of the night. Why do you have them? What do they give you? And I'll never forget what he said. He talked about how it brought him such joy to be able to see the life habits of these incredible creatures up close. It was the wonder of life, and the type of life that many people, I think, don't get to see, and fewer even appreciate. And I think there's a message in there for all of us, because not every animal, of course, is a big, cuddly Labrador retriever. Now, if you are not ready to bring a snake into your life, let me encourage you to take that mentality and to think about some of the other not so cuddly animals that you might encounter during this season of fall. And I will tell you about one such animal that you should not try to cuddle, but appreciate from afar, and that is the Sandhill Crane, one of the many birds that'll be migrating through this area along the Des Plaines River or the lakefront over the next few months. And I will tell you, the past 19 months have been incredibly challenging for all of us. But the opportunity to see those cranes fly south last year, just as they have for hundreds, if not thousands of years, regardless of what was going on down here, brought me such joy and helped me not only feel connected to things outside of humanity and the coronavirus, but feel connected to every living thing in the world. So this fall, don't forget to look up. You will see the cranes fly overhead in groups of 100, and they will be loud. They will not look like Canadian geese flying south, or Canada geese, whatever their name is. But make sure you look for those cranes and feel connected to a rhythm, to something that's been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Not every animal, not every wonderful thing in the animal kingdom needs to be a big, cuddly Labrador.
This will be the second of our musical menagerie for this morning. It's a wonderful song. Many of you will recognize it, but Lisa is singing it in the original German, so I'll tell you what Schubert had in mind. It's called The Trout. In a limpid brook, the capricious trout in joyous haste darted by like an arrow. I stood on the bank in blissful peace, watching the lively fish swim in the clear brook. An angler with his rod stood on the bank, cold-bloodedly watching the fish's contortions. As long as the water is clear, I thought, he won't catch that trout with his rod. But at length the thief grew impatient. Cunningly he made the brook cloudy, and in an instant his rod quivered, and the fish struggled on it. And I, my blood boiling, looked on at the poor, cheated creature. Die Forelle, Franz Schubert.
And beloved companions, I invite you to find each other in that space of prayer and meditation where we connect to the very spirit of life itself, the sacred that connects us to one another and to the world around us. And in this space, we will meditate together with these words from Gary Kowalski. We give thanks for the animals who live close to nature, who remind us of the sanctities of birth and death, who do not trouble their lives with foreboding or grief, who let go each moment as it passes and accept each new one as it comes with serenity and grace. Enable us to walk in beauty as they do, as one with the turning seasons, welcoming the sunrise and at peace with the sunset. And as we hallow the memory of good friends now departed, who loved abundantly and in their time were loved, who freely gave us their affection and loyalty, let us not be anxious for tomorrow, but ask only that kindness and gratitude fill our hearts day by day into the passing years. Blessed be, and amen.
Perhaps you have had a beloved animal companion who has passed in this last year, or one that whose memory lives with you from many years ago. Or perhaps you have an animal companion who is ill and needs our thoughts and care and attention. Whatever the case may be, if that is true for you, you are welcome to come forward at this time and light a candle.
Our reading this morning is from Teresa Soto. Reverend Soto is the newly senior minister of the First Unitarian Church of Oakland. She and her husband have also ministered in Michigan and Oregon. They have a tiny dog named Lula and a huge cat named Puppy. To learn more about her, please look at her website, www.teresalovesyou.com. True. She writes, "What it means to have a pet is to love someone who speaks a language you do not. A dog will bow and prance, a cat will purr and blink, a guinea pig will wiggle and squeak. Long time ago, a friend of mine had a dog with soft ears, and she considered herself the pup's guardian. A gentle way to think of protecting and caring for a friend. Such a small gesture of respect for a source of boundless love." The dog's long pink tongue lolling in a goofy grin. The cat, convinced that kneading and grooming are critical to this day. A bird asking for a treat, bending a wing to wave. These are friends. They are loves. They stretch our hearts and fill them with their abundance of kindness. And when they are gone, our hearts remain larger through their absence, though their absence leaves room for expanses of grief. Their love champions and companions us still.
It's one of my all-time favorite hymns. Absolutely stunning. Thank you. I tend not to have luck on boats. I shared with you a story from the summer about a passage from Washington Island to Rock Island. Several waves made that journey unexpectedly tumultuous. And while it was disconcerting and while someone did fall on the deck, I did not feel seasick there. But when I was living out in Boston, I became famously seasick. I had booked a ride to go see humpback whales. The catamaran took off from the shore slowly at first, but as soon as it was out into open water, the captain turned up that engine, and that boat flung itself from one wave to the next. It was this experience, it was worse than a roller coaster. It was this experience of being thrown into the air and then hitting the waves, and thrown into the air and then hitting the waves. Oh my gosh, I learned immediately that I do not have sea legs. The ride out lasted an hour. I threw up twice, and that was pretty good compared to just how sick I felt. Eventually, the boat's engines cut off, and the passengers, most of them pale and wobbly and with glassy eyes, filed out onto the deck. And I had never felt such a surge of gratitude for this relatively still ground under my feet. The scent of salt in the air was pungent, and all you could see for miles on any side was this great expanse of cobalt blue waters. The sun made the crest of the waves sparkle like gems, and we were too far out to hear any gulls cry overhead. Instead, the only sound, aside from the murmuring of passengers, was the gentle kiss of waves against the boat. And that is when I saw it. This enormous, leathery, bumpy flesh rise to the surface of the waves and then disappear. Several fingers jutted out from the boat, passengers pointing at that humpback that had just granted us a peek. But it was just a taste, a tease. The next thing I knew, the waves parted. And then one of these magnificent creatures breached. It flung its entire body, which must have weighed several tons, into the air, and it spiraled as it came out of the water, its gray-black back turning to show the sun its white stomach. It hit the water with a splash so dramatic that it rocked the boat. Water droplets lingered in the air, and some of it sprayed our faces. That was the first of many breaches that the passengers saw that day. And it almost made up for the violent seasickness that I felt. When I got back to my apartment that night and was fully recovered, I was curious to find out why humpback whales breach. Well, as it turns out, there are several theories about this, but many scientists, many marine biologists settle on the idea that this is a ritual greeting. It is a way of saying hello to other whales. And it is not a quick one and done. Sometimes these beautiful animals will greet each other all afternoon. Caitlin O'Connell wrote a wonderful book called Wild Rituals: 10 Lessons Animals Can Teach Us About Connection, Community, and Ourselves. And she writes that the humpback whales that I witnessed on my seasick boat ride were engaging in a kind of greeting ritual. And the fact that they would spend all afternoon greeting each other should tell us about the importance of those rituals to these creatures. Greeting rituals are demonstrated not just in humpback whales, but in species as distinct as the praying mantis and the domesticated dog and even the ant. Sometimes greeting rituals are meant to demonstrate trust. Elephants will put the tip of their trunk inside the mouth of another elephant by way of greeting. And this is the elephant version of a human falling off of a chair and trusting that they will be caught by someone behind them. And the reason for that is the tip of an elephant's trunk is exquisitely sensitive. To put that into the jaws of another elephant is an act of deep trust. Now, it's possible that our human handshake evolved to communicate something similar. It is a way of showing that I'm not carrying a weapon. Instead, I am approaching you with an open hand in a gesture of peace. Indeed, the Romans had a modified version of this where they would clasp each other's forearms as a way of demonstrating that they were not carrying a knife up their sleeves. This is a way of diffusing tension in relationships so that a trusting interaction can transpire afterwards. Now, COVID has disrupted many of our rituals, and shaking hands is one of those rituals that it has pretty much done away with. Indeed, many of our greetings have been complicated. In Europe, centuries of kissing each other on the cheek have vanished in a matter of months. But there is nonetheless an importance to greeting rituals, even if we have to reinvent what those look like. Rituals make concrete what is otherwise a passing sentiment. With greeting, it ritualizes an air of positivity and trust. One study took a group of people and had them greet strangers. And then that same study took another group of people and had them greet family and friends. And I found these results extremely interesting. What was surprising is that the group that greeted strangers reported greater levels of happiness immediately afterwards. And researchers suggest that this was because more energy is put into the act of greeting strangers, more intention is, than it is with family and friends. And greeting is, of course, a ritual designed to generate connectivity and community. When we ritualize these greetings, we generate that positivity in ourselves. Now, the greeting ritual is nowhere more evident than in our beloved dog companions. So many of you sent pictures to Jonathan of your beloved animal companions, which we will get to share in just a moment. And we all know the simple joy that our pet friends experience when they see us. Jaron and Leslie Anderson talk about a dog's greeting as a kind of ritualized joy. This is what they say. When a dog is happy to see you, it's an instructive moment that reminds us the purpose of life can be felt in the joyous gravity that pulls one loving life towards another. This sense of purpose has an easy grace that is difficult to capture in philosophies built with words. End quote. I love that. So true. Now, of course, animal rituals are not all about joy. We can also learn from animals the ways that they ritualize grief and loss. Watching some of the ways that animals ritualize grief makes me think of the following quote from Leonard Cohen: "I greet you from the other side of sorrow and despair with a love so vast and shattered, it will reach you everywhere." Caitlin O'Connell is persuasive about the grieving rituals of animals. She talks about monkeys who will sit for hours in a tree above a fallen group member, and they will take turns gently throwing branches on top of the body until it is completely covered. One of the most heartbreaking stories in the book is of an elephant who lost a calf, and she refused to leave the body of her baby for days. Other elephants had to bring her food and drink while she kept vigil. We also know stories of dogs who will wait by the door for their human to return long after that person has died. Now, of course, we can't get into an animal's head and know exactly what it is that they are feeling. But the intensity of reaction in many species tells us of the very real experience of loss that they feel. And from my own experience with grief, I can say that it is not a neatly rational experience. It's not something that seems to me something that would be unique to humans. Grief feels feral and wild. It makes sense to me that other species would experience that animalistic tug of heartbreak. COVID has disrupted our ability to ritualize grief. For about a year and a half, we were not able to meet in person, and that reality interrupted our normal grieving rituals. Some of us have postponed memorial services. As you know, we are about to have the long postponed memorial for our former music director, Waylon Rogers, which you are welcome to attend. That'll be next Sunday in the afternoon. Other memorials pivoted online, and I led some meaningful and beautiful rituals of loss in that format. Even with the disruption, I am more convinced than ever that we need these rituals of memory and grief. If people don't engage in memorial and just carry on with life as usual, it's possible to miss an important opportunity to heal. These events help to secure the memory of the deceased in our lives as we move forward. And of course, part of the blessing of having animals in our lives is that we come to love them. We come to love them deeply. And when they die, grief opens in us, it blooms. Losing a pet is sometimes as harsh as when a human companion dies. The poet Mary Oliver writes about losing her beloved dog. It's so exceedingly short, this galloping life. Dogs die so soon. I have my stories of that grief, and no doubt many of you do as well. It is almost a failure of will, a failure of love to let them grow old, or at least so it feels. We would do anything to keep them with us and to keep them young. And that is the one gift we cannot give. As we celebrate the blessing of the animals today, we might remember all of the ways that our animal companions bless us. They teach us of the importance of rituals, of connection, of community, of greeting, and of grieving. They bless us with the lessons about how to be in this world, how to be more fully ourselves and more fully in community with each other. In that spirit, I'll close today with a poem from Nancy Wood. It's called Animal Wisdom. At first, the wild creatures were too busy to explore their natural curiosity until Turtle crawled up onto the land. And he said, what's missing is the ability to find contentment in a slow-paced life. And then as the oceans receded, fish sprouted whiskers. Certain animals grew 4 legs and were able to roam from shore to shore. Bear stood upright and looked around, and he said, what's missing is devotion to place, to give meaning to passing time. And then mountains grew with fiery heat, while above them soared the birds, the greatest of which was the eagle, to whom penetrating vision was granted. And he said, what's missing is laughter, so that arguments can be resolved without rancor. After darkness and light settled their differences and the creatures paired up, people appeared in all corners of the world, and they said, what's missing is perception. They began to notice the beauty that is hidden in an ordinary stone, in the short lives of snowflakes, in the perfection of bird wings, and the way a butterfly speaks through its fragility. When they realized that they had something in common with the animals, people began saying the same things that they did. Now, as we look at the images of our beloved animal companions, let us celebrate them and learn from them and bless them. And in so doing, may we take away the blessings and lessons that they give to us, and perhaps, maybe, we can begin saying some of the same things that they do.
Here at North Shore Unitarian Church, we practice generosity with one another and with our larger community. We offer one another smiles and elbow bumps. We offer one another words and amazing music. And we share our financial gifts, both through pledging and through spontaneous giving. So this morning, we have the opportunity to give in two different ways. You can use the QR code in your order of service, or you can place a donation into the blue box by the door on your way out. If you are joining us online, we encourage you to go to nsuc.org and donate there. We will be stopping our live stream very soon, so we thank you so much for joining us. There will be a Zoom coffee hour afterwards. The link to that is in the newsletter. Thank you again for being with us.